Today, I woke up below the surface, where I learned
a tropical paradise along the equatorial belt, comprising an astounding string of 17,000 plus islands, bounded by two oceans, home to abundant sea life. Indonesia is the epicenter of marine biodiversity. Professional dive operators providing international standard gear and services, supported by a highly experienced dive staff. Endless underwater gems waiting to be discovered. Boasting hundreds of stunning dive sites, catering to divers of all levels. Dive breathtaking drop-offs and explore old shipwrecks and countless variety of macro life. Comfortable and friendly dive resorts and liveaboards. For exciting diving in various parts of Indonesia. An underwater sanctuary for some of the most remarkable creatures. An extraordinary display of marine life amongst our renowned national marine parks. However, vast areas are yet to be explored by divers. The heart of the world's Coral Triangle Center, home to over a quarter of the world's marine life. With more than 600 species of coral and over 3,000 fish species. A spectacular aquatic biosphere. Unlimited underwater adventure. Diving beyond imagination. Wonderful Indonesia.
A united journey isn't just about miles traveled, but milestones reached. That turns window seats into breathtaking views. We're sharing smiles, experiences, and connections transcend language and culture. you realize you're not traveling to get away, but to get closer to yourself. Because it is travel that helps us discover that we are all more alike than we are different. And that this journey is just beginning.
Sick. Live.
Hi everyone, welcome back to ADEX Pixel Virtual Expo. And today for Blue Green 101, we have a special gathering of scientists all the way from Australia and also in Singapore from James Cook University. So let me just briefly introduce you to the two scientist gentlemen. The first one would be Dr. Andrew Chin from Australia. Thanks for the wave, Andrew. He is actually a researcher at James Cook University, based in Australia, and also a program director at Shark Search Indo-Pacific. Our next scientist would be Dr. Neil Hutcheson. Neil is actually a marine ecologist at James Cook University, based in Singapore. Welcome, gentlemen. How's everyone going?
Good.
Amidst all this COVID-19?
Dealing with it.
Well, I think it's, well, what do you say? It's here. You've got to adapt. What choice have you got? And look for the opportunities, I guess. Like this. This is interesting.
Yep, something different.
So what goes on a daily life of a scientist, basically, right now?
Now, paperwork.
Yeah, paperwork and meetings like this. Yeah. So I think if you're in a university like we are, then obviously a lot of the field-based research has been furloughed for the time being, and unless you happen to have some sort of instrument out there to collect data. Otherwise it's teaching sort of face to face being replaced by online. So meeting our students through this sort of medium. And as Andrew said, a lot of reading, a lot of writing, time to sit down and get on with those things that have been put on a pile for far too long.
It's certainly not any less busy. So a lot of us at university, we're now switching to online teaching and teaching our classes online. We were just talking about this before. The edutech has come a long way, Nora, like you said, but it's still pretty tough when you can't interact with the students one-on-one, and technical issues, and and also there's the cost of knowing where you're supposed to be. Like literally right now, I'm supposed to be on an island called Heron Island, which is like one of my favorite places on the planet. And I'm supposed to be teaching American high school kids, American university kids there. And I mean, I like my place, but I'd rather be on Heron Island watching turtles than swimming with sharks, right? But anyway, everyone's in the same situation.
Yep, indeed. Yeah.
So today we convened in one single platform to talk about the state of the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the two of you spend a whole lot of time researching and being, well, I can say a part of the ocean, basically, most of your time. So, is there anything that you can share with us with regards to that? Like, what is the current state of the ocean and how it is in comparison to when you first started?
Oof. Neil will answer this question.
You can go a very positive or a very negative route, or somewhere in between. I'll try and sort of try and stay somewhere in between, I guess. I mean, we're both, I'm sure, consider ourselves, very lucky to be doing what we do. for a job. It's, you know, I do, even when I'm locked down here at home, you know, I do realize that, you know, it's very much a blessing being able to go out there and actually do research in the marine environment and try and help, you know, build our understanding of what the situation is out there, how well, I guess, ecosystems are doing, and, you know, our impact on ecosystems and the organisms that live in the oceans. I mean, you know, you can't shy away from the fact that we as humans have an absolutely massive impact on the world's oceans.
Yeah.
Whether it be through fishing activity, you know, or mining activity, I guess. I know that Andrew's done some work recently looking at deep sea mining.
That report came out today, actually.
Yeah. Or whether it be, you know, in this part of the world, in Singapore, in the region here, you know, looking at the impact of coastal development, and the fact that a lot of habitats are disappearing or being broken down to smaller and smaller fragments. And, you know, these things obviously all have impacts on the organisms that live in the oceans. But I guess what never stops amazing me is, you know, regardless of how much we throw at natural populations, what is still managing to hang on under those sort of circumstances. You know, yes, some things have been impacted dramatically by, you know, extremely sort of large scale patterns, if you're looking at things like climate change and ocean acidification, that sort of thing. But, you know, within Singapore is a prime example of somewhere that, you know, if you weren't out there looking in what there was in the oceans around us, you'd expect there to be very little. You know, you look at how Singapore's developed over the last few decades. You know, we're not in somewhere with beautiful crystal blue water, but we do have very high diversity in terms of things such as corals. You know, we have, you know, multiple species of sharks and rays that call Singapore waters their home. So it's one of those things. If you get a room full of marine ecologists together over a beer or whatever, apart from having a fun evening, conversations can get very depressing very quickly. But, you know, also at the same time, you know, I guess we are faced with wonders every day, and I guess we're doing our part to understand what's out there, and in terms of where there are impacts, you know, what information we can provide to the decision makers, whether they be in governments or elsewhere, to try and turn things around. So yeah, it's definitely, it's a gift to do what we do, but also it's definitely a responsibility.
Yeah, so I mean, Neil mentioned a couple, we're talking about the state of the oceans. I mean, Neil brought up the big, massive elephant sitting on the planet, climate change, right? I mean, we all know the issue of climate change in the ocean, coral bleaching, warmer temperature, ocean acidification, as well as all of these other effects. I mean, that's can be a pretty depressing sort of frame to sit in. I mean, we're here because we love the ocean, we love the animals in it. We have these massive impacts, climate change, overfishing is another one, plastic pollution. But, you know, the ocean is a big place. And I guess, you know, one thing that I would like us, I guess, to remember, you know, as marine scientists as well, I'm going to try sharing my screen here. Just bear with me. Now, did that work? Everyone can see this photo?
Yep.
Hopefully it's a photo and not my lecture timetable for next semester. So, you know, this photo's, you know, a photo taken by a friend of mine, Thomas Vigneault, in French Polynesia, which is one of my favorite places to go. And there are still, you know, the ocean is a big place. And like Neil was saying, even in Singapore, it's pretty resilient. And there are still these amazing places out there that we do get to visit. And even, you know, we hear about the Great Barrier Reef bleaching, etc., you know, bleaching. And there are problems, no doubt. But there are still places on the Great Barrier Reef that are absolutely mind-blowing. And the other thing I think that's interesting about the state of the ocean is, yes, we've got some big problems. We've got some places that are really still in pretty good condition, right? It doesn't mean we can be complacent and relax, but it's not like we just balik kampung, go home. it's all done. And to underscore that point, I mean, we're still discovering new things. Like, you know, put your hand up if you've seen, oh, I can't see everyone's hands. Anyway, let's assume that many people who've been diving in the tropics have seen a blue spot lagoon ray, right? I've seen one, you know, blue spot lagoon ray. It wasn't until, what, 3 years ago, we figured out that the one species was actually two species. And I got the photo sent to me last week from another place where they're not supposed to be. And I've been talking with other people. Fortunately, I can't divulge too many details yet because we're still working it out, but it looks like there could be 3 species. So there's still this stuff to discover. And that's where, you know, going back to Neil's point, like, you wouldn't think there was still lots of sharks and rays around Singapore. But when you start looking, there are. And I think that gives us some hope. The ocean is resilient, and, you know, we can do something about some of the threats we're facing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the ray example you brought up. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's just a few years ago, you know, Port Phillip Bay down Victoria, you know, species of, I think it was a porpoise or dolphin, which no one had ever bothered looking at because they went, oh, yeah, it's that species. And then someone finally looked at it and realized there were 2 species, one of which was undescribed. So, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of us out there in terms of scientists, but there's a lot out there, you know, there's only a finite number of us and so much out there that's still to be discovered, which makes our job the fun and interesting part of it when we do find these new things out.
And, you know, oh, sorry, I'm just going to jump in there and take on Neil's point. Sorry, Nora, stop me if you need to ask another question. But this is, for me, like, one of the things that's really, really exciting. And, you know, we open this discussion about, like, well, what are you doing now as a marine scientist? You can't go into the water. It's like paperwork. Even when we can go out, really, we don't go out that often. It's mostly running around, doing student stuff, trying to get funding, paperwork, you know, whereas divers are out there all the time and the stuff they see is amazing. So again, you know, like this photo that came through is just another one. We published a paper last year, the year before, on a range extension for, you know, Cool's Devil Ray, the Solomon Islands. That photo came from a diver. The differentiation between the 2 lagoon rays, they use, you know, photos from divers were important in that. Because divers are out there all the time, sometimes I don't think they realize the value of what they have. And when we do tap into some of these photos, we learn new stuff, and that's really cool. That keeps things interesting for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, the both of you. Well, as I've actually shared earlier, that I have invited a couple of mystery ocean citizens to join us in this fireside chat discussion. So let me just introduce to you the first one. Her name is Monica Chin.
If I'd known Monica was going to show up.
So Monica, are you there?
Hey.
Oh, there we saw her.
If her photos showed up.
Yeah. And we have Monica Chin from ADRAC. Oh, there you are. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Monica.
You're on mute.
Hi, Dr. Neil. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Monica.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, everything well here. Just a little bit, how to say, sad because we can't go to the ocean yet. Not as active as we do, and I can't dive, so have to hang on a bit in Malaysia. Yeah, all good, all good.
Okay, so to just briefly elaborate a little bit further about Monica. So Monica Chin is actually a director of ARA Dinawan Research Education Conservation Center, for short ADRAC, and she's spending her time with us today just to talk a little bit more about the marine biodiversity in Asia, and also the state of the ocean. The next mystery ocean citizen is Miss Matilda De Silva. Matilda, where are you?
I'm here.
Do we get to see you today?
Yes, we do. I got my face did and everything. How do we work this? Okay.
Just have to switch on your video.
Video. Why is the video not coming through?
Technical glitch we having here.
This is normal. This is the status quo. This is optimal performance.
All right, so shall we go? Matilda, we'll come back to you. But let me introduce you another mystery ocean citizen. Her name is Sam Shu Chin. Hey, Sam.
Hi.
Hey, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So Sam is a research assistant with the reef ecology with the University of Singapore, NUS basically. So I think she's the one that's going to ask all the difficult questions. I
Excellent.
Oh my God, are you excited? That's my list of questions for everybody.
Excellent.
Yes, all the questions your boss won't answer.
My God.
It's okay. I know who it is. All good.
Hi,
if you're watching.
Oh, okay, bye.
While we wait for Matilda to come on board, while she try to get connected for the time being, maybe Monica, do you have any questions you want to ask these two gentlemen, scientists? I know you have a lot. Please, take it away.
Yeah, okay. So my first question to Dr. Andrew and Dr. Neil, because we've been spoken in edX 2 times, 2 years ago, both year 2018 and 2019. So, okay, I run a conservation center. We have sharks conservation and protection division. So we rescue one sharks actually from the fishermen in March, and we are happy they are really helpful. They are really taking seriously on the importance of the sharks around that island. So my first question is, because it's a nurse shark for normal people, it's not important, but for us, any sharks is very important because we want to know what kind of shark species that live around that island, around that water. So I would like to know, is it possible to do a shark tagging, let's say in our small conservation center like this, or is that is it only for particular sharks that we can do tagging? Mm-hmm. Or endangered species? Because we have some brainstorming and discussion. We want to know what kind of a species we have there. We have spotted a black tip shark. I think less than 10 times, and we rescue one nurse shark. And according to the fishermen, there is a lot of baby black tip shark within the month of July and August, which is they call it in their fish net because they use the long line fish net. So we asked them what they do with all the dead baby shark, because we want to save all the live shark, not the dead shark. So they said, we just sell it, to make some money for the family. So I want to know that whether is it possible to do a shark tagging, to start a shark tagging in our center, and what is the procedures and how we can go about it, or do you need a professional like Dr. Neil and Dr. Andrew to do it, or a citizen sign like us can do the procedures? Yeah, that's my question.
All right. Sorry. Neil, do you want to go first or go with the jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go into shock tagging in a second. I guess, given that it really boils down to what your question is. So shock tagging is something useful if you want to get some sort of idea perhaps on population sizes, if you're catching and recatching animals, if you're putting number tags on. And we have also other tags that are useful for following animals around if you want to understand about things like migratory patterns, or you want to understand what they're doing at different periods of the day, what kind of habitats they're using, for example. But if you're wanting to get more of a grasp in terms of the range of species that you've got, tagging might not be the first choice of methodology you'd use. If you're wanting to get more of an idea of the sharks around your island, then perhaps using some sort of baited underwater video systems, or brubs that we call them, would be something that would be very easy to start off doing, and might give you more of those answers that you're looking for in the shorter term. So you can build a sort of a very basic frame out of sort of PVC piping, chicken wire, and stick some sort of sports camera like a GoPro or something similar on it, and put sort of bait in a trap at the end, and actually put those out in certain places on the reef, for example, for an hour. And that bait attracts the sharks, and because you've got a little camera there recording, it will record the sharks that swim past. So that's the kind of an example of a method that you might want to use to get a broader idea of the species that are there. It's something that'd be, I guess for an NGO like yourself, it's something you've obviously got to buy the cameras, but you may already have a few GoPros if you're keen divers. It'd be something that would be quite easy to set up, and you probably start getting nice results for it quite quickly as well. Andrew?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the first thing Neil said is what's the question? So I think one of your questions, Monica, was what sharks have you got? So what Neil said is spot on. Put on some baited remote underwater videos, and you see if you can attract sharks. Now, sharks and rays, only some sharks and rays will come to the videos. So I'd be doing multiple techniques, and one of the best people who know what's happening is the local fishermen, right? I'd be talking to the local fishermen about what they see, maybe giving them cameras to take photos of what they have in their catch if you can't be there to see it yourself. And that just builds up a picture. If you're if I think I remember rightly, you're in a coral reef habitat, so we'd probably expect between 20 and 30 species of rays there, the sharks and rays. But between browse cameras, talking to the fishermen, that can build you up a photo library. In terms of what you would use tagging for, like Neil said, different tags will give you different information. So you need to have a very clear question. Like for your nurse shark, for example, if you want to know, did it survive? And then after it swam away, if it did survive, did it stick around? Did it move around the island? Did it go somewhere else? Depending on what you wanted, if you wanted to know, did it stick around the island, then you could do what's called a telemetry tag. So you put a pinger on the shark and it pings out its ID, and then your data loggers will tell you where it's going. And then if it disappears, it either swam away or it died. You won't know which, but put those tags on. You can put tags. You can tag pretty much any shark, like even a small baby blacktip. There's a tag out there that will work on that shark. But it depends on what your question is. If you're just putting streamer like external tags, anyone can do that. A fisherman can do that. If you want to do a telemetry tag, which will mean doing a surgery, which means cutting the shark open, putting the tag inside and sewing that back up, that's someone you want. Only someone who's done a lot of experience and had a lot of training should be doing something like that. So Yeah, there's lots. I know, typical scientist, right? You ask a simple question, and all I've given you now is more questions.
I do understand that, but just like because we're working with the Sabah Shark Protection Association here, and because we just operated like 1 year, 5 months now. It's kind of like very happy that we can spot some sharks. So far, we spotted black tip shark, nurse sharks, bamboo sharks, and cat shark. Rays, we have 4 species, the common 4 species, that's all. So we kind of like, my team is quite busy with the project because they are still a student in the university. So I just want to be clear something that what we can start off. Like one Dr. Neil said, we can start from spot what kind of species that we have first, like with the bait, so that we can continue taking the data. And the second thing, probably we want to start the ping, either, to ping how far they travel. And then if we can't ping them anymore, then maybe they are gone far or they are dead. Yeah, that's the only 2 things. So I think we focus these 2 first. Anyway, ADRAC Conservation Center is not the NGO. It's a social enterprise company. We also advocates to the UN Sustainable Development Goal 13, 14, 15, and 17. So we have to, we know as a social enterprise that we balance people, profit, and the planet. So that's the good things that we try to create some sharks awareness program to get more students so we can earn a little bit profit and fund it to our project. So that's how we do. So yeah, thank you. I know where to start now. Yeah, thank you so much. But need to
No problem.
I need to learn more about the ping thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, another quick thing as well with that. I mean, you can make you know where to find us. You can contact us at any time.
You've got our email.
Yeah. So I mean, cost is something that comes into it as well. So I mean, if you were putting sort of the basic number tags, sort of colored plastic tags with a number on them that you can attach to animals, that would give you information if it was released in an area and say a fisherman caught it a kilometer away or 100 kilometers away, if they contacted you, you get that information back. They're relatively cheap, whereas the acoustic pingers you're talking about, it's a few $100s for each one. So again, it's all about thinking carefully, putting the time in to design your study, think about what your questions are. Otherwise, these tagging studies can be a bit like just throwing suitcases of money into the ocean that you'll never see again.
Well, I'm not going to waste my time to do the research and learn about the tagging, but we have you both here. So please shower me and feed me all the experience so that we can do it fast. We can protect the live sharks fast in Borneo, in Sabah, because we can't wait anymore. It's too much in the fish market. It's too much. Even though a baby hammerhead, like it's I don't want our generation to see the dead shark in the market. That's the first thing. That's why we need to do whatever is tech in our shark conservation center and learn from all the experts. We are welcome researcher. We are welcome people expert like both of you, Dr. Neil and Dr. Andrew, come and help us, and
where I learned
we can we can try to work out on some some collaboration, or if incur any cost that we try to work on it. Just we need the database for the sharks conservation worldwide information, because all this while we only count the dead shark. We only see the dead shark. We only see what kind of dead shark that been caught, been caged all this while, but not the live shark. Yeah. So it's really, we really want to make it happen on this shark division. Yeah, we want to make it like everyone come here. We can dive with shark. We can easily spot sharks. We want to protect that island as such for the future. as soon as possible. Yeah. One more thing I would like to, one more thing I just want to share. For the fishermen that we work with, we have 2 fishermen village right opposite on the mainland, opposite on the island. So how we tell them to assist us to rescue the sharks that maybe they fish or caught in the fishing net or stuff like that. So we actually built a rescue catch, like 10 feet tall and 20 feet wide. Pretty huge catch underwater. So any of the fishermen that collaborate with us help us to spot the shark if they catch any shark, but must be alive. So we ask them to put into the catch right away. They can, because they have boat and they have, so they can just put it inside the catch. And then we have our volunteer to go and check what kind of sharks. And then we try to take the measurement, take the data, and then maximum we kept it for 10 days. 10 days, and then once he's still active, and then we just release. So we wish to do the ping so that we can count how many sharks was rescued by fishermen, and then how far they go. Are they just surrounded the island, or maybe they will go far away to the open ocean like that? Yeah. That's what the crazy things we do in our center. Thank you.
Well, Monica, craziness for the sake of conservation, I think it's amazing. Shall we move on to the next ocean citizen? Shall we have Sam? I know you have a list of questions for these 2 gentlemen.
Yes.
Take it on, man.
Okay, so the first question is to Dr. Andrew. So I know you have recently started a checklist of sharks and ray species to find out in Singapore, actually. So that's really exciting. Just very curious, how is it going? And if divers, they want to participate and they want to give you to help you with the data collection, how can they do that?
Yeah. So this is actually, I've got a program called Shark Search in the Pacific. We're doing this kind of thing the goal is to have every country in the Pacific done by 2022. So we're doing okay.
Okay.
And yeah, so, the Indo-Pacific, obviously, I was born and raised in Singapore. When Neil told me there's still sharks in Singapore, I was really excited. So Neil and I are actually co-working on this project together and co-supervising the student, Matavi, who's a Thai student. So I can't remember the number off the top of my head, Neil. It's around 50, isn't it?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Which blew me away. So, it's one of these things, when you start looking, there's a lot of different species. And one thing that I still think is hilarious, but also kind of just crazy, right, is there's these Amazonian freshwater, what we call the Neotropical Stingrays. Beautiful freshwater, only live in Brazil and the Amazon. Big black stingrays with these beautiful dots, just beautiful, beautiful species. They're swimming around in MacRitchie Reservoir. There's a population of them in MacRitchie. Why? People release them from aquariums or whatever, which is crazy and kind of bad for any native species. But the Amazon's in trouble, and there's almost like a Noah's Ark population of these oscillated freshwater stingrays in MacRitchie Reservoir, which is crazy. I remember when I was a kid, I was swimming in MacRitchie once illegally.
Really? You did?
And I was swimming, and the giant paku, Neil, those massive South American fish swam by, and it's like, get out of the water. I said, don't mind. But it wasn't. So, like you said, the checklist it blew me away. Like, there's still a lot of shark and ray life around Singapore. And then, you just got these crazy things like freshwater stingrays in MacRitchie.
Yeah.
Neil, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, you've got some species that haven't been seen for many, many years, and they've only been originally sort of spotted once, and there are a few in historic records as well, which are a bit dubious. But yeah, there's certainly much more in Singapore waters than most people realise. I'm not saying that everything's incredibly common. So I work on bamboo sharks. It's one of the groups I work on in Singapore waters, and people talk about them being the common sharks in Singapore, and certainly they're in lot. They appear to be more common than some species, but they're certainly not what I'd call common compared to sharks you see some other places where you see sharks. So for example, in some sort of closely related species of cat sharks that you get in sort of in Europe and Northern Africa, and that they're the kind of thing that anyone who goes recreational fishing, they don't go to catch these fish. They don't want to go and catch these sharks, but anytime they go fishing, they catch these animals. I guess the Singapore equivalent would be catfish, which no one wants to catch either, but you go fishing and that's all you catch. So the numbers here, while some species may be more common than others, they're certainly not here in vast
massive
numbers. And that's to be expected. I guess our coastal waters are relatively small compared to our neighbours. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is we don't have any sort of handle really on, I suppose, species that are migratory that are going through Singapore waters, north and south, up to the Bay of Bengal or southernly. No doubt we have larger species traveling through our waters, but unless you see them, you don't know they're there. So.
Okay, so another question to Dr. Neil. So for your overnight trips, on a good night, how many bamboo sharks can you actually collect?
Wow. Okay, so most people watching won't know. So the group I mentioned, I look at bamboo sharks, and let's see if I can find a picture. Actually, I'll stick a picture up of me at 3 o'clock in the morning somewhere with a bamboo shark. Let's see if I can get this up. 1 second. Just bear with me a second. They're small. Right, let me see if I can just share my screen.
And they still bite.
Oh, they do. I've got. Yeah, I can tell you. No, that's the wrong one.
Okay, oh, there's a bamboo shark.
Oh, you can see it. You can see it there, could you?
Yeah.
Sorry, my technology. Let me share it again. Okay. So you can see it there.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a confusingly, it's a brown banded bamboo shark, but these adults in Singapore don't have any brown bands. It's really, really variable, to be honest with you. It depends where you're out trying to capture animals. Let me just get rid of that. So I've been out around some of the southern islands, for example, and I've had a freak night where there were bamboo sharks and cat sharks, and we probably caught 20 plus animals.
Wow.
A lot of those were the coral cat sharks. Not quite sure. Never had those numbers again. Other nights you can be out. So basically, these animals are mainly active when they're nocturnal. They're small sharks, and they're probably keeping out of the way of bigger animals so they don't get eaten. And I can be out. I basically go out about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and come back about the same time in the morning. And there can be nights we don't see any. So it's just highly variable. So one of the species that I'm really interested in are the bamboo sharks. Is, if I can find a picture of it, it's called the Slender bamboo shark. It's even smaller than that one I just showed you a picture of. Let me see if I can. I'll have a picture here somewhere. Let me have a rummage, so I won't be looking at this for a second. But they're a much smaller species. They're really quite small. They're quite docile. But the main place I'm finding them is more sort of northeastern area, so around Pulau Tekong, Pulau Ubin, and they're really interesting little animals. And I've sort of got some sites there now where it's pretty much guaranteed if I go out to these sites that I can catch animals and tag animals and actually do some surveys. I mean, as Andrew says, there was a classic. I think I showed you this, Andrew. I mean, they still do bite. I mean, they've got very small teeth, and the teeth are really, really small. I mean, a few millimeters long, and they're sort of hinged, which is pretty cool. So if they're, catching something like a little squid, for example, quite a lot of them seem to eat squid. The pointy end of their teeth, they'll grab the squid and swallow it that way. If they're eating a clam or something like that, a bivalve from the bottom, the teeth sort of on their hinges, they flatten out and they can grind them up. So they're pretty interesting. But yeah, there was an amazing newspaper article a few years ago, just over the border in Malaysia. It was all about a fisherman being attacked by a baby near shark. But if you look at the pictures, it's actually a bamboo shark. So yeah, look, he caught it in his net, and it managed to brush against his leg, and it just clamped down on him, and it was there for an hour or so. So but yeah, little animal.
Did you hear about that guy in South Australia called a wobbegong, and it bit his calf? And so wobbegong sharks are bad-tempered, all right? If you're diving, you see a wobbegong, don't mess with them. So this thing bit his calf. He got out of the beach into his car and drove to the hospital with this thing attached to his calf because it died biting him. So don't mess with wobbegongs.
Yeah. leave them all alone. but the bamboo shark, that little one, it's called locally, the Malay name's Ubudo. So it's sort of stupid shark, which is unfortunate, but also they're quite cute little animals.
I thought I heard that wrong. No, I heard it right.
No.
Ubudo. That's great.
Yeah. Sorry, a roundabout way of answering your question there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. So we have another mystery ocean citizen who's dying to us. This scientist, some question. So can we have Matilda De Silva, the founder from Ocean Purpose Project? Over to you, Matt.
I something wrong with your microphone, I think. No. More technical issues.
More technical.
Aha.
Wait, there we go.
Yes.
No luck.
I'm here. How's this?
Aha, magic.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah.
We're in business.
All right. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Matilda De Silva from the Ocean Purpose Project. Nice to see you, Sam. It's really funny. I've actually kind of met Joshua and some of you guys in a digital way. So I'm really hoping that this whole COVID thing blows over so that I can actually meet people face to face. So as you can see, the background behind me is my ideal background, right? But of course, it's just a virtual screen. That's Passeris, where we do a lot of our beach cleanups. But as a social enterprise, I think a lot of the things that we mainly focus around are social media and behavior change projects. So I think what I wanted to get at was, as marine scientists, you guys out in the field, you really have a very close understanding of the main issues that are affecting ecosystems as well as biodiversity. Climate change is something that you probably see firsthand. The plastic pollution issue is something that you experience. What would be the ideal partnership for you guys in terms of your research projects with maybe another social enterprise or with a corporate? Have you guys had any of these these ideal partnerships, and maybe you could share with us what success looks like. I'll throw that to both Andrew and Dr. Andrew and Dr. Neil.
No, seriously. Andrew and Neil will probably do
I don't
just
like to be called doctor, okay?
Hey, you earned it, man. Might as well,
Hey, okay, so super interesting question. I think, you know, look, there's principal research and then there's applied research. I think both Neil and I fall into the applied research camp, where we try and do projects that give information to help people solve problems. Yeah. So I guess our approach is that, yeah, we do want to be involved with social enterprise and industry. The way you do that, I think, depends on the problem you're trying to solve. So, for example, if we're working with a fisheries agency or a fisheries NGO who are trying to solve a problem about unsustainable catch, then you know, the way we'd go about designing a project and working with those will be very different from another project where, say, we're working with the tourism industry who wanted to find out about species in their area and perhaps highlight some of these things as conservation icons so that the resort can, you know, get protection over their house reef or their local area, or educate school kids or whatever. So the approach and the industry partner differs. Now, I work a lot with tourism industry. I work with fisheries agencies. I work with Indigenous rangers, Aboriginal rangers up in Cape York. And, you know, in terms of what the success looked like for me, it's a project where the community, industry, or whoever it is side by side with the scientists working together for a common cause to solve a problem. Because if you don't have that buy-in and ownership from the community side, you can show up and say, wave this paper around in their face, right? And all the scientists are like, yay, that's a wonderful paper. Nobody outside science reads papers, right? And if you haven't engaged the community, what are they going to do with this paper? It's like, okay, well, that's great, but you know, you never talked to us. You never understood the problem. You don't understand how we work. Why should we believe anything you egghead scientists have spat out of a computer back in your home country? So success for me looks like where you've got everyone right at the beginning, you have the conversation about, and you agree on what the problem is, what the approach is, and how you collect your data, and then what that data is used for. And that's also about things like intellectual property rights over, you know, say we're working with a resort and their house photographer photographs a new species. Who owns the knowledge or discovery? Is it the resort? Is it the photographer? Is it the scientist? Could be one, could be any, could be all. But you have to have those conversations up front. So success is when everyone understands what's going on and moving together as partners. That's what it looks like for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that partnership aspect's really important. I mean, whether it be a project where you know, I guess you're working with someone else to a common cause, or it's a research project where, you know, you are, you know, working with or engaging with other stakeholder groups. You know, that buy-in, I guess, mutual respect, something that's important. I mean, you know, Andrew mentioned earlier on the fact that, you know, divers are out there in the water a lot more often than we are. The same with, you know, recreational fishers, for example. I mean, the people, as Andrew said, people know a lot about, well, they see a lot of things, they may not put two and two together, but there's a lot of information, you know, captured in that brain trust in terms of, you know, of divers and fishers. And I think that, you know, conservation, yeah, again, it has to be about common goals, it has to be buy-in and that mutual respect. And also, if it's something like a conservation project, it's having your short-term goals, but also, you know, what you're going to do with that in the future. I mean, the world is littered with, you know, well-meaning, you know, conservation projects that either didn't work because that communication, broke down quite early on, or sometime during the process, or whereas there may have been some sort of initial positive outcome, if there hasn't been a continuous monitoring of what the outcome was, often ways that can all fall apart. So, for example, mangrove regrowth, or planting mangroves is a prime example. A lot of places around the world, you'll see sort of little, you may go to a coastal area, there may be a sign there saying there was a mangrove restoration project 5 years ago, but there may be 2 trees there. Initially, that initial planting phase, there hasn't been that follow through. What worked, what didn't work, how do we top up what worked, how do we learn from our mistakes? And I think, both the scientist's point of view and also from the partner's point of view, it's bringing those learnings to the table as well can only help people achieve.
And I think we really need to be careful about how you approach this. And there's a very well-known example for reptiles. Some herpetologists went into China and they discovered this brand new species that was beautiful, and they published the results. And 6 months later, the species is basically extinct in the wild because all the animal collectors went there. So you as a scientist, you have to understand that local context. And, like Neil said, in terms of what's the conservation goal, you need to work with people to understand all the complexities around what you're trying to do. And let's face it, as Neil and I, if we're doing a research project, we got funding, if we're lucky, for 3 years. After that, it's up to people to keep that momentum going and keep that mangrove thing going. And if you don't have that local buy-in and everything, you're wasting money.
Oh, we have another hot question from Joshua O'Neill. Josh is actually the founder of Love is in Action. So take it away, Josh.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks so much. Hey, lovely to meet everybody on the call. Hey, Neil. How you doing? I'm in Singapore with you. Andrew, I was just chatting to Teresa Stevens. It's her birthday today. And she is a very, very dear friend of mine. So she said to say hello to you. So nice to meet you.
It's a small world.
It is a very small world, yeah. She was best friends with my niece. And so I've known Teresa for many years and followed her journey to eventually become a doctor, which was probably the longest on the planet. Yeah. So all good. Hey, I wanted to follow on from Mathilda's theme, and I'm so sorry. I got to drop off the call at about 6, and I'm so sorry for being late. I work as a project manager, but I've started a non-profit called Love is in Action, and we kind of have a brand called the Litter Club, and it's really about kind of making a difference, especially in the diving world, and in cleaning up the litter that's already in the ocean. And working in the process of trying to stop litter getting to the ocean. We can't stop single-use plastic overnight, but we can stop it entering the marine environment, and that's really what we're kind of focused on in that space. Now, I work for a large multinational called NTT, which is Nippon Telephone and Telegraph. They work in the space of smart cities, smart intelligence, smart kind of everything, really. And they are a big place. Now, I'm working with somebody at the moment to see if we can do some work around remote water sensors. Now, it's kind of a twofold thing. One is around putting those remote sensors into a smart city, obviously into places where it's very difficult to continually monitor water, and looking at that, that connectivity from maybe a regional, or maybe a country to a regional kind of connectivity, to say what's happening in kind of public water system. But also I'm looking at branching that through a little bit further into how we can do that from source to kind of ocean. So where it falls, where our rivers start and where they end up in the ocean. And obviously that's testing oxygen and pH and turbidity and nitrates, phosphates, all of these kind of cool things. I mean, I guess I was talking to somebody strangely the other day who's like, you should be linking into to kind of research through different universities that would utilize this data to be able to kind of do things. Mine is purely from an environmental thing. Let's find out if industry is dumping stuff into the ocean, into the river. Is this something that you guys, kind of would look at hooking into, or can pass any comment on it?
I mean, I guess just from the very local Singapore perspective, I mean, I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday, the day before, and they work in the aquaculture field, and they're interested in, sort of this real-time sort of data. So I mean, there's a whole. I mean, I guess there are. I mean, I don't know much about these sort of sensors. I mean, I know there are some sensors that are out there in the market, but if there was a network collecting this information, I'm sure that you'd have people knocking down your door to get the data. It would be, that kind of information is very useful. Be very useful for a wide variety of reasons. I mean, I'm thinking you talk about the regional perspective, which brought to mind. So in Australia, there's something called IMOS, which is sort of this really large sort of nationwide system they've got looking at. They have a system of buoys around the coastline, and which looking at a variety of different water quality data, plankton, all sorts of things, and that's is seen as being a really important national resource in Australia. I'm sure if something was set up, at a regional level, and then you sort of had branch networks sort of sprouting off from that. I mean, Southeast Asia, it's a big black hole in terms of a lot of data. Where the reality is, we're still a developing region, and Andrew and myself are in contact with a lot shark and ray research in the region, talking about how we can train each other up and how we can collaborate at a regional sort of perspective. I think these regional networks moving forward are going to be vitally important. I mean, the reality is that marine life doesn't respect national boundaries, and so we shouldn't either when it comes to trying to tackle these problems. And to tackle the problems, we need these sort of regional data sets. And if there was live, time sort of data sets, that would be absolutely amazing, to be honest.
What you're talking about, Joshua, sounds really interesting. And, we talk about big data and science. And the thing about monitoring is not sexy. Okay, monitoring reefs and stuff, it is not sexy. It gets boring. And then it's hard to get funding for it. And then you never realize the value of that data until something happens. And then everyone's going, what happened? And you're like, well, we don't know. We stopped monitoring. So, the data you're collecting in terms of water quality and stuff that's run off, what I think a really interesting application is if the data become available in some sort of searchable or a data cloud that can be accessed retrospectively to look at things, then that could be really, really cool to say, oh, actually, this massive die-off happened a week after all of these things happened. And then, instead of as well as retrospectively, if, like you say, you're collecting this for environmental purposes, if from a scientific point of view, if you've got a long series data set, you can start, and you got dates and times when the water looked like this, and this is how much plastic was happening. Then you can start doing the analysis into it and looking at other data sets and start looking for these, if you take a systems thinking approach, we can start correlating the data. It's like there was a sudden flush of plastics. Well, what happened was there? Let's look at transportation data. Let's look at, was there, there's all these other bits that you can bring together and go, ooh, all of a sudden, we have the data that shows there was a pulse of plastic. What happened to cause that pulse of plastic? And then you can use that to build in some sort of management response. So I think what you're doing, and the technology to collect continuous data and smart city and stuff, there are massive opportunities in there for us to make the world better. And I think it's about scientists knowing that the data is accessible so that they can start to develop questions and work with people. Again, it's working with people like yourselves to use the data to the maximum effect.
Yeah.
But no, it sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, these long-term data sets, I mean, as Andrew said, historically, they've not really been thought of as being, particularly sexy. So, I mean, for example, lots of data collection exercises in marine systems in the UK, where I'm originally from, which sort of ground to a standstill, 15, 20 years ago, because the government didn't support them any longer. And then people realized, actually, people started talking about climate change. Those were the data sets where you could see these things happening. So then people started to turn up to reactivate all of these things. So yeah, long-term data collection, the kind of thing you're talking about it's really important.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that.
Well,
thank you,
everyone. Guess what? We ran out of time. It's an hour. Fun.
But
yeah.
It's okay. Next time.
To go in terms of questions.
I guess we have to do another private one, perhaps when Andrew is back in Singapore, and we can go for that local cuisine as you.
You guys are killing me.
Yeah, your roja and your hosan and stuff like that.
Mee rebus, mee siam, nasi lemak, satay, Hokkien mee.
You've got him started now.
You, Nora, you're the one that has to pay for all of this. That's kind of where this is going.
I know.
You need to dive in Singapore.
No problem.
Yeah, I do
Nora.
actually.
You buy the food and then I'll host. There we already have the location.
Yeah, no problem. We'll go all the way to Pasir Ris. Right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, thank you very much to Dr. Neil Hutcheson from James Cook University, Singapore. Thank you to Dr. Andrew Chin from James Cook University based in Australia. Thank you to my fabulous mystery ocean citizen, Monica Chin from ADRAC, Sam from NUS, and Matilda from Ocean Purpose Project, and also Josh from Lovers in Action. Till the next session, I look forward to meeting you guys again back in Singapore. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks. That was fun. Thanks.
Yeah, that was good.
To you, Dr. Neil and Dr. Everett. Yeah.
Call us.
Of course. Yeah, I know. There's certain things I need to consult before we implement it. Good news. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
sharing the PowerPoint after?
Advanced Fit technology utilizes different textures in the silicone skirt to create a superior seal against the diver's face. This unique feature, found exclusively in aqualung masks, also minimizes the marks left on the skin after a dive.
Best Dive has more than 20 years of experience in developing and manufacturing wetsuits. We use 100% Yamamoto neoprene with exclusive material license in China. Freediving champion Jessie Liu is our global ambassador. We collaborate closely with international and domestic freediving events. In 2018, Best Dive was awarded the title of the most popular domestic brand by ADEX China. We offer a variety of styles and high-quality services. You are welcomed at Best Dive.